Good evening. Right, look at this weather. It's awful. So what am I doing out in the mud, in the freezing cold, in the middle of the night? Well, I'm out testing. Well, these are the first thoughts anyway. I've done some testing and some carrying of the Nitecore TINI 2. So it's a V2. Remember the V1 I was quite impressed with, which was about 370 lumens. Excellent for its size, but obviously the battery wasn't that big. I'm just walking along here. I'm trying not to fall down a cliff. But pretty impressed. I like the little screen on this one. It's IP54 rather than IPX8 or anything like that, so it's not fully dust and it's certainly not waterproof, but it's got some resistance. But I suppose this is a keychain light, so you know, are you going to go diving with it? That would be one of the excuses, even though you know on this channel I love a waterproof light. So I'll put this down a little bit there so you can get a good view. Right, I've done this in 4K and HDR. I do apologise for the sound, but it is genuinely raining quite heavily, so I'm getting wet. Okay, so runs from 1 lumen up to 500, which is pretty impressive, so more than the original TINI. I'll show you some comparisons in a moment, but I'll turn this out and I'll show you the actual light itself. So I'll turn out my headlight. There you go. So we'll get that turned on. Okay, so if I turn it on here and I'll show you. Right, so you can go through the different modes: 15, 65, 200, then back to 1. So there's 1 lumen. We'll come up to a tree here, because 1's obviously not a lot. Nice and diffuse. It's a couple of P8 Osrams. Look at that, pretty nice. Not the best sort of tint if you're a tint snob. It's more on the white end, but decent. So 1 lumen, you get about 60 hours out of that. I'll go through the full figures in the full review. So if I press the mode button, it goes to 15 lumens. That's pretty decent for up close if you're looking for something on the ground. I couldn't go hiking with that, but look, there's the ground and there's my foot. So it's not that bad, look. Pretty decent. I'm impressed with that. You could walk in an emergency under that. And then we go to the next mode. It goes to 65. So there's a bit more stretch out. You could actually walk with that. Pretty decent, but that's not really what this is for. It certainly isn't a hiking light, is it? But not bad. So we'll walk along a bit just to show you I am genuinely out testing this in the middle of nowhere. So pretty decent. And then the next one should be 200. So I'll show you that. 200 lumens. Very nice. I think that's quite floody. It's floody in a useful way. Obviously you're not going to get a lot of stretch from that, but it's decent. It's going down that gully there. And then you have, so that's 200, and then it goes back to, it's 1. But you can get turbo, which takes you 500, and I'll do that now. There, so that's turbo. So I'll give you a scroll around there. Pretty decent, eh? I can't notice any pulse width modulation, i.e. flickering, or nothing that I can see yet, but I will give that the full test. Obviously I'll do a lot of testing on that. Let's try down this gully. Pretty decent. Even in this rain it's stretching out nicely. The step down's not too bad. Again, run times I will go over obviously at some point in the full review, because this is still early days. What I am impressed with this is I thought these were a little bit overpriced. However, now they're probably not, because you can get them in titanium for the same price. So this is in titanium, I'll show you that. So turn that off. So there it is in titanium. I've carried that for a couple of weeks now. Let's have a close look. There was a few scruffy bits, but it just wipes off with a wet thumb. I was very impressed. And it's all held together with Torx by the looks of it. There, so that's the TINI 2 in TI, in other words, titanium. If you look, the thing I've been carrying it on keys recently, it's taken all the paint off, but it hasn't on the attachment, which is very good to see. It is a Type-C at last. Hurrah, hurrah, Type-C, instead of the damn micro USB, which is annoying. So Type-C, it's relatively fast charging, pretty decent. Double LED there behind the TIR, so you get quite a floody beam. And just this, I like this screen. I think this is the future for a lot of lights. So you're seeing there, I mean, I've got it, you see it says daily on the top right. There's a daily mode and a demo mode. Demo mode means it just lasts for 30 seconds. I presume it's in demo mode in shop so people don't run the battery down. But daily mode, it will go on. You can't lock it, so if you click and hold, see that went to 1, so that's 1. So you can't turn it on and off, but you can use turbo. So look, turbo works, but you can't turn it on and off. If you want to fully lock it, so you see it says padlock 1 there. If you want to fully lock it, click and press and wait until it goes to there. I'll show you. Padlock 1. If I can get it to work. Off. Turn off. Right. Click and hold. Padlock 1. Padlock 2. Right, now it's fully locked. so it shouldn't go off in your pocket, which is nice. I like a full lock. Full E-lock's what you need, especially when you can't pull the battery in this. So it's a non-replaceable battery cell on this, but pretty impressed so far. I'll show you some other lights so you can calibrate what it is you're actually looking at. So I'll turn this off. In fact, I'll put it to red light mode. Yeah, I've got it on low red so you won't see, but right, I'll put that to one side and I'll show you the other lights. It's absolutely bucketing down here, so apologies for the noise. Here's the Tip 2 720 by Nitecore. A couple of LEDs again. We'll put that on turbo just to show you. Decent, look at that. So more lumens, much more lumens, more floody. Very nice. So you've got to ask yourself, do you need those more lumens? Because it's much bigger, but obviously at similar levels, the battery's going to last longer, isn't it? That's very impressive for a keychain light, look. Usable floodiness, instead of just like some thin beam that doesn't do anything. I quite like that. And it's got that nice, I'm doing this one-handed, so you can't pull that off, it's magnetic. I'm also out here comparing it with the, some people would argue that's not for keychains, it's too big. Yes, it's kind of like a tweener. Nitecore TUP, let's get that on turbo, 1000 lumens. But on the TUP, as I tested it against the A21 by Rovivon, you'll see that it's got that, see the beam there? Very tight, isn't it? It's a TIR, it's a huge TIR, look. However, it tries to get a bit of throw, and I think that's an intelligent thing to do, because once you're hitting 1000 lumens, you might as well use that to get a bit of push. But obviously, peripheral is less. Look, if I move that to the far right, far left, you're not seeing much, and far right, you're not seeing much. So it depends what your use case is, doesn't it? But that's also got the screen, which is nice. There's the original Tiny, so the Tiny V1. So it's just got one single LED, and it's behind like a micro lens TIR. So I'll put that on, about 370 lumens, very white. But look, decent, you know. Again, I like this, but the battery doesn't last long on it. And the body kind of, the paint came off quite rapidly, quite quickly, I would argue. But other than that, it's pretty decent. Let's get a little bit of a 360. So if you were thinking, well, I've already got one, this is what the original one looks like. There's the original T, so pretty good. A little bit of push out there, not a lot of throw, but better up close, obviously. I'm also comparing it with the Nitecore Tip, the original, where it all started, the Tip, not the Tip 2 or the Tip SC or anything. So original Tip, get that on turbo. I think that's about 320 lumens, very white, frosted optic. Decent enough. It's shown its age now though. For its size, it's not a lot of output, but it's decent. It's rugged. You've got this nice aluminum body there. But not a lot to say with that. It's not massively impressive, is it? But you could certainly walk by that if you had to. I also compared it with A21. I did it in a previous review. It's a Rovivon TIR. It's kind of a tweener like the TUP. You know, is it really a keychain light? Nice Nitecore or Nitecore, however you want to pronounce it. So you get a lovely tint on that and a high colour rendering index. Something which you're not getting on a lot of these other lights. Pretty decent though. But again, more push like the TUP. Not a lot of peripheral. Look, if I go far left, you can hardly see the right. Never go far right, you can hardly see the left. So it's got, you know, 700 lumens on this one, or the Cree version, you get about 1000. Do you want push or do you want it up close? If it's a keychain, the argument goes, and I agree with that, you want something a bit floody, because you're probably going to be using it for close up. Also tested it with the FWAA, and I'll show you. Lumen Top FWAA, nice tint on this. I'll put this to turbo. There's turbo. Very floody, very nice tint, but gets hot very rapidly. And there was problems with the button, if you remember. I like a tail clicker, but the button on this was just a bit ropey, wasn't it? And it's not just me who's saying that, it's other reviewers. I'm always honest in the review, so I did point it out straight away, even though some people are saying it's fine, okay, it might be fine for you, but if it isn't fine for me, I'm going to say so, sorry. So nice little bit of push on that, but again, gets very hot, and the button's suspect, let's put it like that. So what else was there? Sofern SC21 Pro, nice, got the Angular, got the really good UI, SST20. I think I've turned this off. There, I'll turn it back on. Let's go to turbo. Bit of a pushy one there, but very underrated this one. Let's walk along a bit with it. See, pretty decent. That's obviously on its highest output, so it is going to look good, but I think that's decent. Look at that. You can see the beam there in the rain. Hang on, there, I'll get it at an angle. There. Pretty decent. Bit of push, little bit of throw, and a little bit of peripheral there. In fact, let's look at this path. So if you were walking down here, look, I think that's great. Look, sideways, if you're in the middle, it's not too bad, is it? An SST20, pretty decent. Cheap as well, so thin. They're always cheap, but they always surprise me. Also tested with the Nitecore TINI, which I've been carrying for years on my keychains. That is what I carry after the review I did when I decided that was one of the better ones. Only 300 lumens, look, but nice. I think this is a P8 this uses, so you get a bit of push on this, like an SST20. It's P8 on the Tiny 2 as well, which we're looking at here. Nothing massively impressive, but it does have those secondary modes. So you've got your light there behind the TIR, but you've got these secondary modes, which, you know, I didn't use, but I appreciate the fact that they're there. Just because I didn't use them doesn't mean other people don't. That's one of the reasons why I'm considering switching maybe to the Tiny 2, because I like screen lights. Also the Astrolux K2, which doesn't get enough love, but if you remember, I hated that button. I thought it was useless. It's functionable, but it's not ideal. It's one of the things I need to fix. But at this price, I'm sure it's like $10, $12, something like that. Ramped UI with a high CRI. If you get the 4000K version, you do get a choice of tints. Pretty good, you know, stainless steel bezel. So turn that on. There you go. So if I ramp that up, that's not bad, is it? Nice tint. I mean, it's about 300 lumens again, like the Tiki. It's not going to blow anything away, but sometimes that's all you need on a keychain. Look, it's bringing out that moth there, right into the distance. Look, see it? So pretty decent, but peripheral a bit lacking. But again, it's not massive output, is it? So it will be lacking a bit. So turn that off. Also, I am testing it with the Tip SE, which is something like 700 lumens, isn't it? So it looks like the Tip, the original one, but it's got 2 LEDs and it goes up to 700. But other than that, it's very similar. So put that on. Look at that. Pretty impressive. So walk along a bit. See, that's pretty good, isn't it? And again, that's got the daily and demo modes and all. It charges on the side. Most of these lights are chargeable with USB, apart from the FWAA. So you've got all those options there. I'm very impressed. We'll go back to the light I'm looking at, if I can find it, because I've got a pocket full of things now. So bear with me. Give me a few seconds here. I'm not taking the mic. Okay, so there's the Tiny one. I will find it. Tiny. I'm doing this one-handed, in the mud, in the night. I think I found it. Nope, that's the Tip 2. Bear with me, I will get there. Apologies for this, there you go. Back to the Tiny 2. So, Type C on the side, nice to see on there. Charges quite rapidly. It's got that nice screen. I'll unlock it there, so hold that down. It's unlocked. So you've got your modes. It gives you a little, 7 hours 57 there. You run it at 65 lumens, 2 hours 29. I love the fact that you can look at that and go, right, I know how long I've got left in that range. It does seem to work when you're charging, which is a big thing. And it's hardly a camping light, but that is an added feature. 115, 65, 200. Let's see what that looks like in the rain there. And then we'll put it on turbo, which again is taking up to 500. So we'll go to 500 mode. Yeah, that's 500. Let's walk along in 500. So down towards the ground, decent enough. And we're walking along. A little bit of push, a little bit of flood. Very capable for its diminutive size, I would argue. Very impressed. Sorry to have rattled so long. I mean, this isn't a full review, obviously. I'm going to do a full review with loads of side-by-sides. Thank you for joining me. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments section. I genuinely try my best to answer everything, even the people saying rubbish, liar, and all this, or whatever that guy was putting recently saying. I can't remember which one it was now. He was saying that review's rubbish, you're lying. Well, no, I'm not. So I don't work for any of these companies. If it's rubbish, it's rubbish. If it's great, it's great. At the end. So thanks for joining me. Like I say, this is in 4K, full HDR 10-bit colour, and the highest bitrate I can get away with without Google knacking it. So thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a bit more testing, a bit more hiking. I've got a few miles to go before I get home. Thanks for joining me, and good night.